Okay, so this is just a quick review. It's going to go through each of these worksheets, not all the problems, but just a sample to help you. So we got simplifying each expression. This is 0, negative exponents. Of course, we know anything to the 0 power is 1. So this 37 to the 0 power will become 1. Here we have negative 11 to the 0 power. Well, that 11 becomes a 1, but we still have the negative in front. That 0 only applies to the 11. And so that's going to be a negative 1. If all of this had been in parentheses, that would be a 1. But since that's negative 11 to the 0 power, that's going to be negative 1. You can check this on your calculator, so you don't have to be guessing. Okay? Here we have negative 15p. Of course, anything to the 0 power is 1, so it doesn't matter what this p is. That will still be a negative 1. Okay. I'll come down to this one later because this is my hard. Well, this is 4x to the negative 3, y to 0. Okay, we can go ahead and look at this. Write this one out. 4x to the negative 3 times y to the 0. Okay, this becomes a 1, so we can forget about it. It's x to the negative 3. And you have a negative exponent if it's up top. So the numerator, you move it down. If it's the denominator, you move it up. So we can always think of this as being something over 1 whenever you have any type of whole number. So we can move this x cubed down. So that equals 4 over x cubed. So that's simplified that problem. Okay. Let's look at this one. 5 over 5 to the negative 2. This time, since the negative exponent is in the bottom, we can move it up top. So that's equal to 5 times 5 squared. And we're just adding exponents. 5 by itself is the same thing as 5 to the 1. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. Let's draw that in so you can see it. So that's equal to 5 cubed. And again, you can just do this on your calculator. 5 cubed equals 125. So that's another trick to remember. If you're looking at any of these things and you can't figure out for what the answer is, you can always see what your calculator gives you. Okay. Let's look at number 10 here. 3 to the 5 to the negative 2. Okay, so when you have parentheses, I'm using the distributive property of exponentiation over either multiplication or division. This exponent applies to all of your terms, so both of your numerator and your denominator in this fraction. So what this means is I have this negative 2 applies to the 3, which means I'm going to move that 3 to the bottom and make it a 2. Take it to the second power, 3 squared. Right, negative 2, 3 to the negative 2, I move it down. Okay. And I also apply that negative 2 to the 5. And so I have 5 to the negative 2, and I move it up. Now I did 2 steps in one. Basically, I took the reciprocal of this fraction. The reciprocal of a fraction is you just flip it. So I just flipped it, and I just applied the 2 to both of those things. I left, if we were going to do this one step at a time, I could have just done the distribution first and had 3 to the negative 2 over 5 to the negative 2. And then I would have to move the 5 up and the 3 down. And that gets us to the same place. All right. Some of these are more complex. Really, this is just the same as that other one. You just apply the negative 2 when you flip. Let's do number 14. 5s over 6t to the negative 2. 5s over 6t to the negative 2. Okay, this negative 2 applies to everything. It applies to the 5, to the s, to the 6, and to the t. So we're going to move this 6t up because this is a negative exponent. So we're going to have 6 squared t squared over 5 squared s squared. And you can just use your calculator or use your head. That's 36 t squared over 25 s squared. All right. So that's enough from that section. Okay. Here, this is just evaluations, and we're putting in values for x, y, or z. I think that one is pretty straightforward. You're just putting it in. Let's just do number 19. Got 4x to the negative 1. So 4x to the negative 1. And we have a value for x of negative 2. So that's equal to 4 times negative 2 to the negative 1, which equals, it's going to be 2 down 4 is a negative, got a negative out, and 4 over 2, right? This is negative exponent goes to the denominator, which is equal to negative 2. And you could just plug that right into your calculator and get the answer. All right, won't spend too much time on that. Okay, multiplying powers with the same base, all you're doing is adding the exponents. So, 10 to the 7 times 10 to the 2 is 10 to the 9th. You got 7 to the 8th minus 1 is 7 to the 7th minus 5, and you end up with 7 squared. You've got 12 squared minus 9. It's going to be a negative 7. Remember, you're adding your negative and positive numbers. It's the same thing as subtracting and taking the sign of the bigger number. So 9 minus 2 is 7, but it's going to be a negative 7 because the negative 9 is bigger. Negative 7 plus 12. What's 12 minus 7 is 5. Since the 12 is bigger, it's going to be a positive 5. Okay? And again, you just use calculator 2 minus 9 plus 12 and get the answer. All right. Find the area of the figure. What we have here, area of a rectangle is length times width. So we have 7 n squared plus 3n times 2n cubed can write that as 2n cubed, and then parenthesis 7n squared plus 3